First, there was a girl from Carver County High School who was part cheerleader, star athlete, and the most popular girl in school, Ashley Prentice. Ashley is the daughter of Marilee and Owen Prentice, one of the richest couples in the city. Marilee was the chairman of most of the well-known charities in the city, not because she was involved in charity, but because of the status it gave her. Owen owned more than 50% of the shares of Normal Trust, the largest and most prestigious bank in the city, as well as all or part of several merchant businesses on Main Street. Ashley and Marilee were the most beautiful women in their age groups in Normal and Carver County and many surrounding towns. Ashley's older brother by 2 years, Storm is his nickname. His real name is Reginald. He hates it. He is different from other family members. Kept a low profile, played football like any other healthy male teenager at Carver High School, but didn't strive for fame, fortune, or image. He left town for college and stayed there, eventually becoming a lawyer in the big city. Although Ashley's parents loved her, they never taught her humility, empathy, and mercy qualities that they themselves lacked. This led to Ashley not being very kind to many of her classmates' children who were not part of the popular group, one of whom was Billy Thompson. Billy was a fairly harmless child. He was not particularly good-looking, was short for a boy his age, and was not burly enough to play football in high school. For this reason, the boys from Carver's school often joked about him. The head quarterback of the football team was in charge of Jack Austin. Although Billy's parents were not poor, they did not have much free income, so he sometimes lacked material goods. However, to his complete dismay, Billy fell head over heels for Ashley. Billy and Ashley were in the same grade, junior high, when this story began. Billy's crush was not unusual, as many boys Ashley's age had crushes on her, but he was not smart enough to hide it. As a result of Billy's crush on Ashley, he was teased mercilessly by his male classmates who had not yet bullied him, despised by many of his female classmates, and made fun of by many who did not tease or despise him. Despite his position, working part-time, he saved enough money to buy tickets to the school prom and even rent a luxury car and asked Ashley to go with him, so far in advance that no one else, not even the aforementioned star, would have had time to do so. Football Jack Austin. Ashley was shocked that someone of Billy's stature had the audacity to ask her for this. Thank God he at least did it over the phone, as he would have probably shit his pants in person. This gave her time to think without showing the disdainful look on her face that would have been obvious if he had asked in person. She decided that Billy should be put in his place, so after a long pause, she began to question him in a flirtatious manner, and after some gloating said,
"Yes, but I'm a little worried, Billy, that you won't have enough money to buy me a suitable boutonniere, tiara, or other items that I need."
Encouraged, Billy assured her that he could if he worked longer at his part-time job and asked her to confirm that she would go with him. "We have to keep this a secret, though," she whispered over the phone, "otherwise my status-seeking mother might interfere. Also, we should only talk about this over the phone and not in person at school." Since Ashley's eyes were beyond his wildest dreams, Billy was willing to agree to all the terms. Thus began the most ruthless and lengthy prank in the history of Carver High School. Ashley talked her close friends into it in absolute secrecy, and every week or so she told Billy what she needed for prom. The list included a tiara, the first of which she rejected because it wasn't shiny enough, a stole, a pair of ugly shoes that she had no intention of wearing at all, but had simply given to the local Goodwill, various bottles of perfume and jewelry. Billy spent all the money he earned that was in his bank account as gifts from his grandparents, but he knew it was all worth it, especially since every time he saw Ashley in the hallways of school, she smiled at him, although I've never spoken to him in person. Ashley also told her arrogant mother about this evil prank. Instead of dissuading her daughter, as good parents would, Marilee just laughed and agreed to play her part in the prank. Finally, the big day arrived and Billy drove up to the mansion Prentice in a rented Lincoln with the very boutonniere Ashley said she wanted. However, when he approached the door, it was not Ashley who opened the door, but her mother, Marilee. "Hello, Mrs. Prentice," Billy stammered. Is Ashley ready? Ready for what? This was Marilee's short and rude answer. For graduation, he answered in a barely audible whisper. She left with Jack Austin half an hour ago. What makes you think that she will go with you? Marilee chuckled. Billy suddenly realized that they had played a joke on him like no one had been played on in the entire history of Carver School, and he began to cry quietly. Grow up and take this as one of life's lessons, Marilee continued caustically. But I guess you don't need this boutonniere now, and it will look great with my dress when Mr. Prince's apprentice and I go to the charity ball in the benefits of fighting leukemia, Marilee concluded, extending her hand. Completely broken and struggling to hold back his tears, Billy handed over the boutonniere, and the door immediately slammed in his face, without even a word of gratitude from Marilee. Billy drove his rented Lincoln to a remote location in the city and burst into tears. After a couple of hours of feeling sorry for himself, he finally pulled himself together and went home. His worried mother asked him what was wrong when she saw him come home early and upset, but he simply said, "I don't want to talk about it," and went to his room. Sleep didn't come for a long time, but eventually emotional exhaustion took over, and he fell into a deep, albeit uneasy, sleep. The following Monday at school, everyone who heard about Billy's cruel prank either laughed or shook their heads. Luckily, there were only 2 weeks left in the school year, so Billy withdrew into his shell and spent it not interacting with anyone, struggling to endure the laughter that came his way, especially from Jack Austin. He turned 18 that summer, and since there was no way he was going to subject himself to a year of humiliation his senior year, he dropped out of high school and joined the Marines. Typically, a high school diploma is required to join the armed forces, but a local Marine recruiter had not met his quota and filled out the education section of the form for Billy, confirming that he had been presented with Billy's high school diploma. Until the end of the summer, Billy ended up in a military camp. About 6 years after Billy enlisted in the Army, Ashley returned to normal and was engaged to Jack Austin. There were too many beautiful women at Ashley's college to hurt her ego, so she returned to normal, where she was clearly brilliant, rather than moving to the big city like Storm did. The past 6 years have been kind to Marilee and Owen. Owen became even richer than before. Thanks to workouts at the fitness studio Owen opened in Normal, a bit of cosmetic surgery and weekly spa treatments, he's well into his 50s. Marilee looked better than ever. Then a strange incident occurred in low-crime Normal. As Marilee was leaving Owen's office at the bank as they were leaving for lunch, 2 bandits with guns and masks entered Normal Trust and told everyone it was a robbery. They took the money and Marilee. For about 10 seconds, there was some kind of scuffle between Mary and Mary. When she came to her senses, she heard a baritone male voice shouting towards the cashiers, "Call 911. She turned around towards the voice and saw a muscular man about 1.80 meters tall, with a nice short beard and mustache and a penetrating gaze, holding the first bandit's pistol in his right hand, pointed at the floor. Marilee quickly realized that it was this guy who saved her life. "Thank you so much," she whispered to the muscular man, her eyes filling with tears. The muscular man didn't react at all. The first patrol car appeared 3 minutes later, and soon others arrived, as well as 2 ambulances. The muscular man met the first police officers at the entrance, showed them some identification, and when the detectives arrived, they sat on chairs in the bank teller's spare room and spoke with the muscular man. After about an hour, all the chaos finally died down, although the bank was closed for the day and the forensic scientists were still bustling around. The detectives left with bank surveillance video that appeared to show the entire incident. Almost all this time, Owen and Marilee sat in an embrace. When everything calmed down, Owen asked the detective who was the last to leave, "Who was the guy who foiled the robbery and saved my wife?" "I didn't have a chance to thank him." "His name is William Thompson," the detective answered. "Where is he from?" asked Marilee. "I don't think I've ever seen him before." "Said he was born and raised here, recently discharged from the Marines. works at an electronics plant outside of town, and lives temporarily with his parents on Appleton Street. Marilee suddenly had a strange expression on her face. "You mean Billy Thompson? He looks completely different from what I remember. I know his name is William Thompson, but I don't know if his name was Billy. He didn't call himself that. But come to think of it, didn't someone pull a terrible prank on a boy named Billy Thompson at Carver High School 5 or 6 years ago?" Owen and Marilee looked at each other. "I do not remember." "Thank you very much, Detective. I'll get back to you," Owen replied. Of course, for the next few days, the only topic of conversation in the city and local social networks was the foiled bank robbery. The local newspaper devoted its entire front page to the event in the next day's edition, despite the fact that neither the reporter nor the editor could contact William Thompson. All they had was what the detective had told Owen and Marilee. He grew up in Normal, had just gotten out of the Marines, and was now back in town, even though his parents denied he lived with them. In fact, William Thompson is the former Billy Thompson. Since leaving Normal after high school, he had grown 7.5 centimeters and gained 11 kilograms of muscle, which was due to a growth spurt, service in the Marines where he received a Silver Star, and a commitment to physical fitness. Many tried to contact him, but to no avail. No record could be found of him owning or renting a house or apartment in Carver County, where Normal is located, and the electronics plant where he works only acknowledged that he was an employee, but worked in a secure area of the plant where there is no public access, and the employer is willing to provide it to the public only if he agrees, and he did not agree. Owen and Marilee consulted with Ashley, to whom they told everything, although by that time the video recording of the incident made by the bank had spread all over social networks, and was even shown on one of the TV channels available to the residents of Normal from a city located only 60 miles away. Marilee, and to a lesser extent Ashley, began to have remorse. This was quite unusual for Marilee, almost unique in her life. However, the bandit's words to her, as he grabbed her throat with his hand, haunted her, and were reinforced by what the bandit admitted to when he pleaded guilty to avoid the death penalty for the death of his associate while committing a serious crime. She obsessively tried to thank William Thompson and apologize for what was done to him 6 years ago, with a persistence that was astonishing, even considering her always persistent nature. After 2 months, Marilee was finally able to talk to William's parents, and through them get a promise from him to meet her. She wanted to host a gala dinner for the entire Normal community that would honor the year's most significant civic achievements, and William would obviously receive the highest honor. On Saturday morning, Marilee drove to a remote part of Carver County, where William had purchased a fully insulated and modern cottage in the name of an LLC in which he was the only member, which was why property in his name could not be found in the county. Marilee was dressed beautifully, but modestly. When she arrived, William was standing in front of the cottage, shirtless, chopping wood. Without a shirt, his muscular torso looked even more impressive than in the bank. When Marilee got out of the car, William stopped chopping and put on a tight t-shirt. Approaching him, Marilee did not feel her usual confidence. He didn't greet her, didn't smile, or show any other signs of warmth. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with me, William," she said hesitantly, forcing herself to smile. His only answer was, "Let's go to the house." When he deftly entered his cottage and did not hold the door for her, she realized that the meeting might be unpleasant. Walking inside, she was struck by the home's decor and how bright it was, thanks in no small part to the skylight at the south end of the roof. "Can I offer you something to drink?" William asked without emotion. Considering that she was nervous, even though it was not yet noon, Marilee responded, "Do you happen to have any white wine?" "There is a Cloudy Bay Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand," he replied, shocking her to the core, since it was her favorite white wine, which was difficult to find in Normal. "That would be great," she replied. She noticed that William only took a can of soda for himself. Marilee started small talk with William about when he came to town, what he did in the Marine Corps, where he had been, etc. Nervous all this time, she continued to drink wine, since every time he filled her glass when it was almost empty. While William's responses were not particularly friendly or concise, they provided a significant amount of information, including that he had actually seen combat but ended up becoming an electronic warfare specialist when his talent for electronics was accidentally discovered. After half an hour of chatting and 3 glasses of wine, merrily got down to business. "William, I want to thank you for saving me in the bank. I don't know if you heard what that bandit said to me when he grabbed me." "I heard." William waved him off. "I have no doubt that he would carry out his words." Merrily winced. "That's why I did what I did. I didn't care about stealing money, but what he threatened you with is a completely different situation. I couldn't stay away, even if it was you," he said. His words deeply affected Merrily. She thought about them many times after that incident, but when she heard someone else say them, she was shocked to the core so much so that she drank her 4th glass of wine in one gulp, and the words, "even if it was you," hurt even more. "You recognized me?" she asked. "Certainly. It's hard to forget you, Mrs. Prentice, not only because you look very good, but also because you were the rudest person in my life apart from your daughter Ashley and her boyfriend Jack, so your image is kind of imprinted in my memory. Well, everything is open, and now there is no need to try to avoid this topic." Contemplating her answer, Merrily looked intently into William's eyes. They were the most intense and hypnotizing she had ever seen in her life. His physical transformation from a harmless 17-year-old boy who showed up at her door 6 years ago, given his time in the Marines and growing up, was understandable. But why hadn't she noticed those eyes before? Maybe because there were tears in them then, and maybe they have changed too. I, I, I really don't know what to say," she stammered, holding his gaze. "I don't think Ashley and I could have been any more cruel to you. I always regretted this." "But when did you regret it?" "After I saved your ass. Of course, not before, because I never received an apology from you." Measured, I realized that he was probably right. She hardly remembered that evening until the moment when he saved her. Merrily muttered a few more apologies, receiving mostly curt replies or just stares from William. After she had finished her 5th glass, now having finished the entire bottle, she asked, "Can I somehow make amends?" "Yes, but you won't agree to this," he answered harshly. But she agreed. William seemed interested in her calming down for the first time when he asked, "I'm glad you came to me, Mrs. Prentice, but I'm not sure you told me the real reason for your coming." "After the last hour and a half, you can certainly call me Merrily," Merrily said carefully. Merrily pulled herself together and, sighing, said, "Besides the apology, I wanted to ask you to attend the award ceremony for everyone in Normal and accept the civilian award you received for stopping the bank robbery and saving me." William shrugged and said, "I don't really like awards. You can carry out the ceremony without me. I know you may feel awkward, but I promise you will feel as welcome as possible, and many in the community actually want to thank you. Please come." William's gaze became serious. "I don't think you're ready to pay for me to come." "Name the price. I'm sure we can work something out." He looked down at her and said, "You can either come here one more time or 2 more times. Choose, otherwise I won't go." Merrily was not used to the fact that she was not in control of the situation, and now she was furious. "You are incredibly arrogant, so don't come to the award ceremony. I'm sure we can find someone more worthy," she snapped, turning to leave. She burst into her Mercedes, threw a dagger look at William, who was sitting on the porch with a satisfied expression on his face, and drove out of there. When Merrily drove home, her head was even more disorganized than when she went to William. She was ashamed as never before in her life. The next few days, Merrily's thoughts and emotions were like a roller coaster. Both Owen and Ashley asked her what was going on. She gave a lame excuse that they didn't believe, but based on past actions, she didn't want to press her point. Sometimes Merrily was embarrassed, sometimes angry, sometimes despondent, and then determined. The little thing was that she received his mobile phone number from William, but only on the condition that she would not share it with anyone. After 3 days of poor sleep and anxiety, during which she canceled several meetings with charities she worked with, she called him. "William Thompson is listening." William, this is Marilee Prentice. Nice to hear from you, Mrs. Prentice. I wanted to ask if I could come to your cottage to talk a little more and convince you to accept the reward. How about Saturday at 8 in the morning? William asked. Marilee was glad that there was no hint of arrogance or conceit in his tone. Yes, that would be great. See you then, she swallowed hard. When Marilee arrived at William's hut at 0751, he opened the door for her without waiting for a knock. Since you have already arrived, I will come to the award ceremony. When, where, and what time? Marilee smiled. I will contact you to clarify the details, certainly within the next month. For some reason, Marilee found it necessary to visit William every Saturday for the next month to discuss some aspects of the awards ceremony. During the discussion, William told Marilee in no uncertain terms that if Ashley was at the ceremony, she should not approach William or try to talk to him under any circumstances. Measured agreed. Finally, the momentous evening arrived. Despite William's assurances that he would definitely come, Marilee was still nervous that he might not be there to get back at her for the evil prank she had helped pull on Ashley 6 years ago. She hoped that their relationship, which William enjoyed as much as she did, would eliminate the awkwardness of his absence. When it was almost time for the presentation and William was still not there, Marilee was very worried, especially since she could not reach William on his mobile phone, and breathed a sigh of relief when, 10 minutes before the start of the presentation, he walked through the door with his parents and sauntered up to the head desk, sat down and even shook hands with Owen when he had his first opportunity to thank him in person since the incident at the bank. William was humble and gracious as he accepted the evening's highest award from Mayor Normal, saying he did the right thing and did only what he had to do. While Marilee and Owen enjoyed the rest of the evening as people socialized at the open bar after all the presentations, Ashley and Jack were out of their element. People seemed to try to avoid them, not forgetting the rumors about how badly they had treated William. Adding to their sense of discomfort was the fact that Marilee had made it clear to Ashley that she should not approach or try to talk to William. Not even remotely aware that Marilee was dating William, Ashley was outraged that he forgave Marilee but not her. The situation became even more awkward when Jack, already half drunk, walked up to William and, holding out his hand, said, "Listen, dude, let's forget the past." William looked at him with a growl, glanced contemptuously at his hand, and walked away. This resulted in Jack drinking himself to death. Ashley didn't want Jack to drive them home, and considering how much she had drunk, she didn't want to drive. "Let's call a taxi or ask Mom and Dad to take us home," she begged. Although she and Jack were not yet married, they were engaged and living together. "No, damn it," he answered angrily. "I'm able to drive a car." Against her better judgment, she got into Jack's Tesla to keep the peace. William left the ceremony to take his proud parents home shortly before Jack and Ashley left. He was driving at top speed and was upset when a Tesla sped past, going where the double yellow line was and appearing to lose control. "This guy is a walking accident just waiting to happen," his mother complained. They had driven less than half a mile when they turned a sharp corner and saw that the Tesla had crashed into a tree. A car traveling in the opposite direction stopped, and its driver got out to look at the accident. William got out of the car and went to see if he could help. The driver of the other car shouted, "Be careful, electric cars can catch fire." William looked into the car and saw that the airbags had deployed. The people were most likely still alive, but unconscious, and he could already hear cackling. He managed to open the driver's side door and unbuckle the seat belt. He pulled the driver out and carried him a good 15 meters. Then he returned for the female passenger. The passenger side door was not working, and the passenger seat belt was jammed. William returned to his car, took out a knife, cut the seat belt, and pulled the woman out just as the car began to be consumed by flames. Both he and the woman received minor burns, but nothing serious, but a few more seconds and the situation would have been dire. An ambulance and police arrived. State law allows police to take blood samples without the person's consent in an accident involving serious property damage or injury. Of course, Jack and Ashley were in the Tesla, still unconscious when they were taken away in the ambulance. At that moment, due to darkness and other circumstances, William did not know that the people he saved were Jack and Ashley, although he suspected it. Police interviewed William, his parents, and the other driver, whose wife filmed scene on your iPhone. William was treated by a paramedic at the scene, but because the burns were only first degree and involved a small part of his body, he refused to be transported to hospital. On Monday, 2 days later, the car accident made the front page of the local newspaper. The video was circulated on social media on Monday. Accompanying the newspaper's front page article was a photograph apparently taken from a video of William carrying Ashley to safety as a car burned in the background. That William, only a few hours earlier, had received the city's highest award for bravery, and now repeated another act of heroism, was regarded as one of the most astonishing circumstances in the history of normal. On the phone Monday night, Marilee thanked William sincerely and heartfelt for saving her little girl. "I didn't know it was Ashley and Jack at the time," he said. "But you would have saved them anyway, wouldn't you?" asked Marilee. "Yes, of course I did," William replied, slightly offended that Marilee even asked about it. "There's a big difference between playing an evil prank and letting people die." They discussed how Ashley was doing in the hospital. Her and Jack's injuries were not life-threatening and would be released in a day or two, and how the awards ceremony went. Marilee then asked, "Is it okay if I come to you on Saturday morning?" William didn't have to think about it for long. Even though he couldn't wait to start dating again, now that he was settled in normal, having one of the two most beautiful women around, even if she was 50 years old, was very nice. "Is 8 in the morning normal?" he asked. "See you then," Marilee answered. When Ashley and Jack left the hospital, their relationship changed, partly because Jack ignored Ashley's request not to drive, and now he faces penalties for drunk driving, after having already been convicted of drunk driving has become a really serious matter. When Ashley read the newspaper article about who saved her and saw the video on social media, she was not only embarrassed, but depressed and ashamed. Like Marilee, she was her daughter. After all, she felt remorse for the way she had treated William in the past, and felt a strong need for him to accept her gratitude for saving her and forgive her for her past misdeeds. However, as in the case of Marilee, he refused to answer her calls, although she extracted his phone number from her mother. 3 weeks after leaving the hospital, Ashley returned home, and she and Jack took a break. Jack hoped it wouldn't be forever, but Ashley was already starting to think it might just be forever. Although the initial embarrassment of being saved by William and his obvious contempt for not even allowing her to thank him had dissipated a little, she realized that until she apologized and thanked William, there would always be an emptiness in her heart. She needed absolution. Although Marilee was extremely and unnecessarily vague about how she managed to get William to forgive her and come to the awards ceremony, Ashley was able to deduce that despite his distant attitude, she visited William at his home and essentially begged for forgiveness. She suspected that there might have been an exchange of money and decided that she could at least offer to pay for all the things he bought for her in high school as part of her cruel joke. Since there were no documents confirming William's residence his parents refused to tell, his employer considered the information confidential given William's position in the company, and Marilee stubbornly insisted that she knew nothing. Ashley hired a private investigator, using money from the trust fund, which her grandparents set up for her and which she recently gained access to. Because the private investigator was able to bribe someone with traffic records and was able to place a tracker on William's car while it was parked at his parents' house, 10 days later there was an answer. The following Friday afternoon, Ashley waited in a nondescript rental car at a gas station near the intersection where William needed to turn to get to his home from the plant where he worked. A little after 7 in the evening, she saw his car swerve. She waited 10 minutes and then drove to his house. With great trepidation, she walked up the steps and knocked on the door. When William opened it, he was wearing a t-shirt and shorts. This outfit put his muscular body on full display. She had never noticed before, and his appearance had certainly changed over the past 6 years, that his eyes were more penetrating than any others she had ever seen. "I know you don't want to talk to me, William, but I beg you to let me in and talk. I swear that after I speak my mind, I will leave you alone." "How did you find me?" "Hired a private detective. I will also remove the beacon from your car when I leave, I promise." "Does your mother know that you are here?" "No. She would never tell me where you lived, or even if she ever visited you here, which I assume she did, since you seem to have forgiven her for the part she played in that evil joke I played on you 6 years ago. Please, William." Without saying a word, William opened the door and stepped aside so she could enter. As soon as she crossed the threshold, he asked, "Would you like something to drink? If it's not too much trouble and you have a glass of wine, that would be nice." When William poured a glass from a bottle that looked like it was her mother's favorite New Zealand white wine, Ashley found the coincidence surprising but said nothing. William took himself a can of soda. Taking a sip, she drained her glass to gather her courage. William immediately refilled it. She began, "First of all, I want to sincerely thank you for saving my life. Jack was stupid for driving drunk, and I was just as stupid for letting him do it. I broke up with him, and I'm unlikely to resume the relationship." "I don't care," William replied, causing her throat to tighten. I think not," Ashley stammered, losing what little self-confidence she had when she entered. "Be that as it may, this is the absolute truth. You saved my life, and I am very grateful to you." Without waiting for any reaction from William, Ashley swallowed and continued. "I was a narcissistic bitch in high school. I was a terrible person, but the worst thing I ever did was the evil prank I played on you. It was vile, disgusting, terrible, and every other negative word you could use to describe it. I want to make amends. First, I want to reimburse you with interest for 6 years, all the money you spent on me. Please let me do this." "For what?" "Because it will, at a minimum, improve your financial situation, and it will help me feel better." "Is this just about you again, Ashley?" No, William," she answered, draining her glass again, tears streaming down her cheek. "I swear, I want you to forgive me. It will help you as much as it will help me." "Why do you think that I am able to forgive?" "Because you have turned into a strong, handsome, confident man, and because you forgave my mother." "Do you think that since I forgave her, I should forgive you too?" "Yes, I will do everything necessary for this forgiveness." "Indeed?" William asked, standing up and looking into Ashley's eyes like a cobra looking at a squirrel. Yes, yes, yes," she stammered. 2 hours later, Ashley fell asleep in William's arms. Before he fell asleep, William thought, "I wonder what the reaction will be when Merrily comes here tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. With a smile on his face, he fell asleep. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one. Listening to the next one. Listening to the next one. Listening to the next one.